With this expansion of the PACT Act, what group of veterans are actually impacted by these changes here?
Millions. Millions are impacted. We're talking about Gulf War veterans. We're talking about post 9/11 veterans. We're talking about Vietnam era veterans. And repeat, Vietnam era, not in country, not in Thailand. Era, Vietnam era veterans. So again, when we're talking about the PACT Act, we're talking about millions and millions of veterans who have been affected.
You want to make sure you claim these conditions in particular.
You want to be very precise with the conditions that you're actually going after. We want to make sure that you are concise about your condition.
If a veteran was previously denied benefits for one of these conditions, should they reapply under the new presumptive status?
Yes. Reapply as soon as possible.
Hello and welcome to the Prepare to Compete podcast, where we talk all things VA benefits, real estate, entrepreneurship, and more. Kenneth Davis, how you feeling today, my brother?
Well, I'm blessed and highly favored in 2025 and ready to go ahead and start educating.
Absolutely. And today we have a very significant and special episode regarding the PACT Act and some changes and enhancements to actually offer more opportunity to our veteran community.
Yeah. And a lot of these updates here are expansive, right? I always want to make sure that veterans understand we're trying to not only inform, educate, and make sure we get into the nuances of the already regulatory information, but we're trying to expand. So we're able to provide the new updates here.
Absolutely. With this expansion of the PACT Act, what group of veterans are actually impacted by these changes here?
Millions. Millions are impacted. We're talking about Gulf War veterans. We're talking about post 9/11 veterans. We're talking about Vietnam era veterans. And repeat, Vietnam era, not in country, not in Thailand. Era, Vietnam era veterans. So again, when we're talking about the PACT Act, we're talking about millions and millions of veterans who have been affected.
Absolutely. So, and what's very important here is that it's not just for healthcare, it's not just for VA benefits, but for all of your different benefits and things that go along with this. So, really excited for Kenneth to break down these changes that are very critical for our veteran community today.
Yeah. Listen, some of these critical changes in relation to the PACT Act, main changes will be expanding some of the presumptive conditions, right? The presumptive conditions are really conditions that have already transformed on how veterans are able to receive benefits based upon toxic exposure. Well, guess what now? Now we're also going to be able to make sure that we're adding diagnosis, conditions, and also other countries that are going to be able to be service-connected based upon associated health effects.
Absolutely, Kenneth. So let's dive right into it. So what are the new presumptive conditions veterans need to know about?
Yeah, so there were 5 main conditions that were added, right? So we talk about the leukemia, right? Leukemia, that was a condition that was added, not only such as chronic conditions, chronic leukemia, but also acute leukemia, okay? Because we understand that a lot of these chronic diseases are basically it affects secondary conditions. So it's just so many different other conditions that it affects. We want to focus on that as well. I think that's why the VA took in consideration of that. Also, multiple myelomas. That is a big one that affects so many different people, and that has been added to the presumptive list as well. Okay, myelodysplastic syndromes. Okay, and that one specifically it's associated with bone cancers, bone marrow cancers, different things of that nature. Again, so if there's anything that you have been, obviously diagnosed with, you want to make sure that it falls in that category. All right. And not only that, but also myelofibrosis. Okay, myelofibrosis, and also urinary bladder, urethra, uterine and also genitoury system cancers. Okay. And that's going to include so many different things, you guys. Okay, when we're talking about the genitoury cancers, okay, that can be reproductive issues, that can be kidney, that can be bladder conditions. So we want to be able to really dive into the genitoury cancers because that is a very, very impactful and also wide range of cancers that could be affected. So those were the conditions that was added to be able to remove those hurdles for veterans.
Absolutely. That's wonderful, man. This is a major, major step forward. And our veterans are definitely going to be thrilled about this information and really just understanding the eligibility, right? So definitely let's get into that. And, you know, all our veterans watching, they want to know who qualifies for these benefits under the PACT Act.
Wow. Who qualifies for benefits under the PACT Act? Well, I can first and foremost tell you millions of veterans actually qualify for the benefits under the PACT Act. And let me tell you guys, it is not just compensation benefits. So please, please, let's dive in to do the research. And if you don't want to do the research, please just join the community. And some of that information is there. But healthcare, expanding the healthcare, that was a big, big opportunity for you guys. So please take advantage of that as well. But who's eligible? Well, let's take a look and understand. Burn pit exposures. Who are the veterans that are mainly exposed to burn pits? Well, veterans who served as in-country places such as Afghanistan, Iraq, Kuwait, just and other surrounding areas, right? Such as Bahrain, Qatar, so many different places in those areas. We want to make sure that if you served after September 11th, 2001, that is going to be able to qualify you, okay? And let's not forget about our Agent Orange veterans, right? Vietnam era veterans. So Vietnam era veterans, we want to make sure that you guys are informed as well, okay? That's going to actually expand your locations. All right, so for Agent Orange exposures, we understand that the expansion of the exposures for Vietnam veterans have been widespread, right? But it does not only necessarily need to be in country in Vietnam, but Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, Guam, Johnson Atoll, but also during specified periods. With understanding that you have been exposed to these places, it is only specified times. It is only specified times. So please go ahead and check out our previous PACT Act video to be able to understand and find out those specified times, okay? It is very, very important that you do so. Now, a group of veterans that we do not talk about so very often, and these group of veterans are very much well-deserved, just as every other veteran is. But this specified group who were exposed to radiation, okay? There are many veterans that have been exposed to radiation on many, many occasions. Now, this radiation exposure has literally caused many issues for veterans. So we talk about the nuclear cleanup or veterans who dealt with such activities that were or stationed in specific sites during the Cold War era, right? Obviously, many of those veterans are no longer with us. But however, for those who are, please take that in consideration because not only can you help you, but you can also help your family as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. And timing is always going to be critical, right? So timing is always going to be critical, but before we get into the next point, I wanted to, ask you one question, right, that we don't want to get too far in the video. Now, obviously, there were some changes and some additions with the PACT Act a few years ago. And now, so with these addition of these conditions here, would the veterans need to file a new claim in order to be able to receive benefits for these presumptive conditions?
Great question. Amazing question. So, veterans, listen, we understand that the VA is a forever expanding federal agency that are doing amazing work out there. But now are we going to wait until they right their wrongs, or are we going to be proactive? So let's go ahead and carry on and be proactive to go ahead and file those claims on these expansive issues, because though have the legislation has changed or the regulation has changed, just because the regulation has changed doesn't mean that they're going to just reach out to you to be able to provide you those benefits. So go ahead and make sure that you go ahead and reach out to them and get your case filed so you can go ahead and make sure that you get what you deserve.
Absolutely. Great. So, yeah, I wanted to clear that up, right, because we definitely want to make sure that veterans aren't just sitting there waiting for something to happen. And some of veterans might actually still have claims pending from already applying for the PACT Act, so it could lead to some confusion there. So you want to make sure you claim these conditions in particular.
Yeah. You want to be very precise with the conditions that you're actually going after. Though it has opened up for a wide range of opportunities for veterans, we want to make sure that you are concise about your condition. Every veteran in military service isn't the same, so we're not going to treat it as such. But if you're general, the VA will. Be very careful.
Absolutely. So, all right, now that we got that cleared up, Kenneth, so can you elaborate on when these changes will actually take effect?
Fantastic. Yes. These changes are going, so about time you guys are seeing this video, these changes 9 times out of 10 are already going to be in effect, okay? So over the past year, the VA has been, again, exponentially expanding the PACT Act. So with that expansion of the PACT Act, we also understand that this was established back in August 10th, 2022, but these new conditions are going to be established on January 10th, 2025. However, the uterine and bladder cancers and also obviously the genitalia system cancers are going to be effective January 2nd. January 2nd. So that is already enacted. So you want to act fast. Okay, if these conditions are presenting you ailments, issues, or anything else, please make sure you're making your case to the VA. And if you need any assistance, we're here to help.
Now, it seems like the VA is doing a wonderful effort to just kind of make things more expansive and really, serve our veteran community. So can we talk a little bit more about how this kind of ties into simplifying the claim process as a whole?
Yes. There's so many different initiatives that are being pushed to assist veterans in a major way. The obstacle is getting the information, right? Just because you are receiving initiatives that can be pushed without the information and assistance, which this is why we're here. That is the biggest obstacle. But however, they have done such things as, again, the technologies that are being put in place to assist veterans, right? Being able to, again, simplify or streamline the process of submission of claims, and with that also different initiatives such as getting your health files much faster, right? Which again, you guys can go back to the video that we have actually spoken about this. These are things that the VA is always currently doing, and it's actually helping to process claims faster. Now, we're not saying the claims are being processed accurately, but it is more expedient, and though it is more expedient, there's also going to be hurdles amongst that as well. And we kind of see that with a lot of effective dates that are being, and not only effective dates, but also just bad decisions that are happening. But that does not dispel that, again, the VA are delivering billions in benefits and helping veterans and their families across the nation. So please, please, please understand that.
Great. So now I'm sure that some of our veterans watching, they may have applied for these conditions previously. And, sometimes that process of applying for benefits is already cumbersome enough. And now they've already been denied for these conditions when they previously applied. So for our veterans listening who were previously denied for these conditions, what should they do now?
Well, first and foremost, you should submit your supplemental claim immediately. Okay. Now, when you reapply, making sure that you have obviously your evidence, and obviously, what do we say? service medical records, right? Your service medical records are really, really huge in so many different aspects. But again, in regards to the PACT Act, I would specifically make sure that we're focusing on your time in those specific locations and time in country or out of country or surrounding areas. Okay, so that's just going to make it a smoother process. By doing so and making sure that if you need any assistance for detailed information, specifically amongst your claim, your benefits, please, we're here to serve and give advice. We want to be able to provide you the information and provide it very thoroughly to create a more smooth processing system for you.
Wonderful. So we definitely want veterans to apply for their claims and things. And I know you mentioned a supplemental claim, and we don't want to get too far in the weeds with this stuff, right? But always we have to give the veterans what they need to know, right?
Yes,
in terms of things, especially with the PACT Act just taking effect in August 2022. And a lot of these veterans and these claims are newer, right? So now we kind of get into an effective date issue here. So I wanted you to maybe talk a little bit about that, because if they were previously denied, that denial date may be very important as far as when that decision came out. So can you elaborate a little bit on that fact there?
Yes. So veterans, listen, there have been huge changes amongst the initiative, but one that we will always focus on is that of the effective date of yours, right? So the effective date is ultimately going to affect your compensation benefits that is then provided to you. Your compensation benefits and your effective date are one and one. So with the supplemental claim, if you have actually filed a supplemental claim within a year's time frame of that denial, continuous prosecution can be applied to your case file. And guess what? Now your case file is going to be approved from the date that you actually submitted the claim, the date the entitlement rose, or your intent to file, whichever applies. So again, make sure that you are taking a look at the effective dates that are offered to you. Effective dates are king, okay? Effective dates equal compensation. Effective dates could also equal access to other benefits for you and your family. Very important.
Got it. So they're going to be looking at their denial letter, right? Essentially looking at their decision. And now there's always two dates on there, and it confuses me at times, right? So you have the date in that top left, which is the date where the decision not necessarily was rendered, but when that piece of paper was printed. And then when you scroll down, it actually has the decision letter date. And those dates can be different, right? So which date should they be actually paying attention to when they're looking at that decision letter and say, hey, I need to get my claim in based on 1 year of this actual date here?
So that is a good question, right? There isn't a blanket statement for that. There isn't a blanket answer for that. I wish there were. However, there's so many different dates, right? Like you said, and mainly when we're talking about effective date, we're talking about the date that the claim was approved, right? And that's the effective date, where it could be one of those three. But now when we're talking about supplemental, our focus will be the notification letter date. That notification letter is produced and received. The notification letter date does not always match the effective date. 9 times out of 10, it will not. Okay, so be very cautious about that when we're talking about the actual date of submission. But now, when we're talking about that as well, also the law states that, again, well, the regulation change states, again, it can be the date of intent to file. The focus is the notification letter date.
Wow, this is powerful stuff, veterans. I don't know if you know, but understanding what he just outlined there about intent to file, effective dates, decision letter dates, notification dates, that could lead to thousands upon thousands of dollars in back pay and compensation for you once that claim is approved. So again, you want to look into that. And also you want to make sure that you are educating yourself. Obviously, you're watching this here today. And if they need help with filing their claim, what are some resources that the veterans should look towards for assistance with filing claims for presumptive and even other issues?
You have, again, an abundant amount of resources. We're always going to point you in the direction and provide the guidance to your VSO if you have not taken advantage of so. Okay. They provide the assistance, but now if you are looking for more detailed assistance that are going to kind of take you from step A to step Z and provide you the information, right? The information is key. Again, it's going to be obviously totally up to you, but again, you want to be able to navigate the process in a more concise way that is, again, for your military service. So, again, you can go to your VSOs they do fantastic work. However, making sure that it is customized to get the information directly for you. Again, you can always give veterans a call. We'll definitely be able to give you a free evaluation of your effective date for your supplemental claim, and we'll be able to just speak with you because we just want to know more about you, okay? And then at that point, we'll just see where it goes because at the end of the day, we're here to effectively serve the veteran, and you are that. So please just give us a call. We'll love to be able to speak with you.
No, absolutely. Wonderful stuff there. And, when we're looking at our decision letter dates and we're looking at the claims and we're doing the process, and if you're applying for one or more of these conditions, you have started recognizing certain terms that may be on that letter there because, some of these conditions here can be related to toxic exposure risk activity. So you may see the word terror by those conditions. And so that's coming up a lot more, Kenneth. So wanted you to kind of discuss what that means for our veteran community here.
Yes. So this here was a huge enactment with the PACT Act, right? So understanding the toxic exposure risk activity, understanding that it needs to kind of be displayed, right? Now, be very careful amongst that because many veterans who are exposed to many toxic exposures. Do not narrow yourself in. But again, we can talk about that anytime if you have a specified issue. However, again, that right there is going to explain what condition is going to be a part of your presumptive claim. Okay. Was your tinnitus associated with toxic exposure risk activity in terror? Do you want it to be considered? Well, those questions are asked. Well, what country or location were you in? When? How were you exposed? So having these answers and making sure that you're answering these questions very particularly and amongst your military service is going to be very, very critical to your claims file. Okay, so with that, terror, it just necessarily defines the specific military duties that's associated with your hazardous exposure to toxins. That's it. Okay, but now, just as though the VA wants you to use a prescribed form for everything, well, they're going to also require you to go ahead and make sure you identify the toxic exposure risk activity. And now, what does that mean? Well, they need to know what country you're in. They need to know your date. They need to know what conditions that are being affected by this. And it's going to be very specific. So with all of this, you want to kind of narrow things down. However, you also want to make sure that you have not boxed yourself in where a denial is on the way, quick, fast, and in a hurry.
Absolutely. That makes sense. It sounds like whether you're filling your claim out online or you're using paper claim form, all those small boxes, right, that sometimes we may leave blank, hold some significant value because they're asking you about all these different questions here. So definitely you want to make sure you're paying attention to the details and providing that information. You would think sometimes, hey, shouldn't they already know whether I served here? Shouldn't they already know this? Why they're asking me this? I don't remember this approximate date. Well, try to fill that in as much as possible because it's definitely going to help you with your claim process here. But we want to know how veterans could actually verify if they're military experienced. So now we want to kind of verify, right? We want to actually see how can veterans verify if their military service included terror designated exposures?
Great question. Well, there's, again, figuring out the dates, times, and circumstances that you're in. Location, time, circumstance. Location, time, circumstance. Location, time, circumstance, and now diagnosis. Okay? So now with that, when we're talking about location, time, circumstance, that is going to equate to where you were, what you're exposed to, the time that you were in. Now, terror is going to go ahead and also add that addition of diagnosis that will then complete the terror activity, right? So, and for compensation purposes, okay, for VA benefit compensation purposes. But that doesn't necessarily mean that is for healthcare purposes. Two different things, you guys, okay? However, if that is a question in regards to healthcare, that's something that you want to make sure that everything is being discussed and everything is being laid out directly.
Invaluable information, Kenneth. This was really very much so insightful, but we want to keep pushing the envelope of information, right? We want to continue to add more value to our community. And speaking about communities, we have our own Veteran for Veteran community. The information is on the screen here. So if you're actually listening to this, you can actually go to vetsforvetsinfo.com. We have different ebooks, resources, and a strong veteran community to kind of help walk you through and answer a lot of the questions. Of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, definitely like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz, right? Of course, you've got value if you're this far along in the video. So we definitely want to know your particular questions as well. So feel free to leave any feedback in your actual comments and questions in that comment section. But again, we're going to continue to have Kenneth pushing out more value and information here by answering some commonly asked questions about this here. Because as I'm sitting here taking notes, I'm getting my own questions, and Kenneth been able to walk through those. So we want to get some other questions answered. So now another question that we got here was, if a veteran was previously denied benefits for one of these conditions, should they reapply under the new presumptive status?
Yes. Reapply as soon as possible. As mentioned, you want to make sure that you are being proactive with your case file. You are not sitting back being reactive with your case file. You want to be able to provide everything that is needed to be able to get your case approved. Okay, your claim is going to be one of the most important things during that time frame that you are pushing forward with it from the start of your intent to file. So treat it as such, okay? Treat it as such. So yes, the answer is reapply as soon as possible.
Oh, great. So next question here is, how can veterans ensure they have proper documentation ready to file their claim?
Very simple. Service medical records, service medical records, service medical records. We are always going to go ahead and make sure that we are providing your service medical records, even if the VA have them. We're not going to assume that anyone has anything. Okay, but then also in regards to the PACT Act, you also want to go to provide your current diagnosis. In previous videos, we've actually talked about what defines a current diagnosis, because these actual nuances matter. So please do not take anything lightly, okay? But all in all, please making sure that you're providing your service medical records, your DD-214s, and also any current medical evidence that you need to provide with that, to include any type of nexus letters or anything that are going to be able to provide you that linkage. There's so many different things that are going to help, but please make sure that you actually provide that information. And if you need any assistance with any of that, please let us assist. But we understand in the PACT Act and presumptive issues, no medical opinion is needed. So if you fall in that category, service medical records, your DD-214s, personnel files, so on, and also your current medical evidence.
No, absolutely. And I think one of the things where veterans may need assistance, right, because they may be applying for these presumptive issues here, but obviously they may have other conditions that they want to apply for as well. And one fact that may get overlooked at times is that you want to make sure that you're not sending your conditions in one by one when you're filing your claims, right? So if you know you've been dealing with certain ailments and conditions since military service, you want to go ahead and apply for these presumptive issues, but you also want to include any other conditions as well with that. And of course, Veterans for Veterans is able to assist you with that, as well as being able to do that on your own if you do decide so.
Yes. With that, you want to also make sure that, because again, beyond, popular belief, doing one or two conditions, that's going to get your case file completed the fastest way, right? We want to talk, everyone wants to expedited everything. Well, I want mine done right. I want it done the right way. So if it does take time, sometimes that's what it takes. It takes time to build the Taj Mahal. It takes time to, again, specifically build the aircraft carrier, or to build the F-18, or to really build yourself as a veteran. So allow that time to build and make sure that you have provided everything that you can, and then making sure that you have covered every aspect and left no stone unturned. You do that, you should be fine. But again, allow the time to process, but also make sure that we're having some proactive initiatives in between that.
Absolutely. Kenneth, we thank you for your time today. Thank you all for watching. Prepare to compete. We out. Peace.